We did have a monthly community call yesterday, so we do understand that this is pretty close again on having another PnP call, but this is the special interest group call for PnP Sites Core and PowerShell. And today we're going to talk about two kind of main topics. But before we go there, quickly explaining, SharePoint Patterns and Practices is owned by the SharePoint Engineering, so this is coordinated by the Redmond organizations, but we do work together with the community on code samples, guidance documentations, and we have these community calls. And the whole idea is that we from engineering, together with community, MVPs and core team members and externals, help together the community to be successful within the SharePoint customizations. The themes are in SharePoint Framework and the modern way of doing SharePoint customizations, obviously SharePoint add-ins in SharePoint Online and in on-premises, also Microsoft Graph and Office 365 development in general. AKMS SharePoint PnP is the one address to remember, where you can find all of the code samples and a lot of additional information. Now, Frank, you forgot to mute yourself. Thank you, Frank. Good. So we have two main topics for today. And even though this is a special interest group targeted for the PnP PowerShell and Core, this actually applies, the first topic applies across the SharePoint development as well. And what we wanted to have is to have an update to go through the details on the current situation on the modern experiences that includes sites and lists and pages. So what is the customization options, what I can do with that, and what's actually coming in the future. All of this, obviously this community calls are getting recorded, and this will be available in our YouTube channel within 24 hours. The second topic, what we're going to talk today, well, there's only one slide, so the main topic is we're going to spend majority of time on that with demos. But the second topic is upcoming provisioning updates. So we're asking some input from the community on what's missing from the PnP provisioning engine and what is the areas and ideas what we need to add there if people have any input during this call. But let's actually get on going on the modern SharePoint experiences. So what is the customization story for sites and I'm missing actually list and pages over there. First of all, we are currently working on a MSDN guidance on a specific articles on all of these topics. So there will be a main new node in the MSDN, which is an introduction to modern experiences or the customization story on modern experiences. And there will be then, at least to start with, 4 different articles. So first one is around provisioning modern team sites, how to do that. So what is the APIs? What do I need to do to make that happen? The second one is the customization options in the modern team sites. So what's available, what can I do, how do I do that, and all of that. The third option and third thing, which we no doubt should have actually been more clear already back in the past as well, is the customization story on the modern lists and libraries. So how do I modify those, what is supported, what's not supported, and so on. And then customizing modern pages. So what is the situation around the modern pages? How do I disable them from my sites if needed? How do I enable them? And how do I, for example, in future add web parts on those pages? Right now, that's unfortunately not supported, so the API is missing. The ETA, as in estimated time of arrival, for these articles is on the week of 19th of December, meaning the next week to the PnP MSDN. And these will be then updated whenever we get new capabilities for the modern experiences, which will happen gradually and during the spring. So you will see more and more stuff available for the modern experiences. Before we go to the internals and the demos and all of that stuff, so what we can exactly do within the sites and lists right now, just to clarify the current situation. We have now released the initial versions of the modern experiences, but this is not the full story. So there will be a lot of new capabilities, a lot of new customization options available for the modern experiences as well. Right now, the modern sites, lists, and pages are out, but I think if anybody of you have actually really had a chance to look on them, they are relatively limited from a customization perspective, unfortunately. And we are addressing those gaps gradually as we move along during spring and then during next autumn as well. So you will see additional capabilities lighting up using the SharePoint framework. You will see other additional capabilities, more railed experiences lighting up on this, all of this experience. And how we would like people to approach this is that consider the move only when in the modern experiences you can actually fulfill your functional and business requirements. So follow up on really kind of analyze the situation. What do I need to have from a customization perspective? What does the modern experiences currently support? Is that good enough? If it's not, just don't enable the modern experiences, because you do have those options available in a tenant or in a site level to disable or enable the modern experiences. So you can actually control this really flexibly across the Office 365 tenant. And maybe mentioning that, I mentioned Office 365 tenant, the modern experiences will land on premises as well, as part of the future versions of the on-premises releases. It will be in the feature packs or whatever we will release later on. We don't have an exact timeline for that, and even though we would have, I would not be able to communicate that for the time being. And like mentioned, we are addressing gaps gradually. This is the kind of a minimal version, the first versions, and there will be additional capabilities on these modern experiences gradually as well. Good. So
maybe one thing to add here is that we talk about modern experiences, but keep in mind that the classic experience will be supported for a long time. It's not going away immediately. It is there. It will stay there. So we've seen some concerns in the community and from customers kind of wondering when will Microsoft deprecate the classic experience. There is no plans whatsoever at this moment to do so. So
that's a good.
You can safely keep using that one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really good point to add as well. So, and there's a good question from Russell on the IAM window. I'll come back on that one slightly later on the presentation. There is a slide waiting for that one as well. So, groups and modern site provisioning. Let's start with this one. This is a classic slide which was showed a few times already in the previous special interest group calls. But how do you actually get the modern team site is by creating a Office 365 group. So as part of the group creation, you will actually get a site tab nowadays, and I needed to update that slide, but I forgot to do that. And if you click that one, you will actually land on the modern team site, which then has, for example, the news capabilities and all of the modern capabilities, modern web parts, modern editing experience. You can provision this already programmatically by using the groups endpoint in the Microsoft Graph. Right now, I think we still have that small itsy-bitsy, I would say, bug in there. So you need to create an Office 365 group and hit the access files collection endpoint programmatically, and that will actually then create the site. The objective is that whenever we create a group, we will actually create a modern SharePoint team site to the group as well, just by creating the group. The modern team sites, they do have the no script capability enabled. So the customizations are limited, and I will go through what are the limitations related on customization, but it really comes down on that no script capability being enabled. So the limitations are pretty much the same as within the classic theme sites if you would enable the no script as well. So there is a support article out there, and I know that that's really difficult to write or copy from the screen, so I do apologize on that. Let's add that one in the video notes as a link as well, so you can easily find the reference article. And obviously that will be mentioned in the upcoming MSDN guidance as well. Now, let's actually have a quick demo on this one. We've shown this a few times, but let me show this one in practice. So how do I actually create a modern team site, and how would a custom modern team site look like? Just that we have the full story in one video. That's what we're actually looking for within the special interest group call. So I'm going to share my screen. And then I need to have a quick, and I will be relatively fast on this one because we've shown this 2 times already, but it's easier to have one video which is actually showing this one, including the list customization story as well. So can somebody confirm that the screen sharing is working?
It works.
Thanks. So Bert got it, and numerous people got it in the iron window as well. So, like mentioned, we've shown this quite a few times, and I do apologize on that, but we want to have one video, and this is this particular special interest group video, where we actually show all of the current situation around this. I'm going to use the PnP PowerShell, because the PnP PowerShell has these PowerShell commandlets, and let's talk about this one in a second as well. But what I'm looking for is to create a modern team site against my Office 365 tenant. There are currently certain limitations, and I'll mention those as we go along. As an example, right now, the only way I can do that is by creating the group using a user context. So you cannot actually create Office 365 groups using app-only access or app-only tokens, which is a clear limitation for a backend system. So we are looking into addressing that one as well. It's a known gap. But let me actually do an F5 on the script. And it's going to ask me to sign in. This is essentially calling that connect PnP Microsoft Graph commandlet, and I'm dynamically asking the needed permissions within my tenant. So I'm going to sign in using my one of the alternative test tenants. And after that, I'm essentially signed in my PowerShell session, and I'm able to get the access token, even though I don't actually need to get the access token, because the access token is dynamically stored in the memory of the PowerShell session. In the PnP PowerShell, we do have a commandlet called a new PnP unified group, where we then provide the display name, description, and the nickname for the group. That will be also the URL of the site collection, which will be created underneath the site or underneath in the SharePoint online side. And then we do have additional switches like the members, and I'm able to also give a logo for the group creation or for the group and the site itself. So if I now do an F10, we can actually do quick side by side, and let me open up that one. So we can actually see I'm doing F10. It does take a few tenths of a second, but relatively fast. The group itself is created, and after that it's visible for me to actually access, either using, for example, using my mail UI or whatever UI you're actually using to access your groups. Just as well, you would be able to send an email to people, and this will actually eventually send an email for all of those people who are assigned as a member as well. Let's wait a second, and we should see, there we go, we move forward from the PowerShell, and we can see that awesome group being created for us. And if I go to this awesome group, and if I extend this one slightly, if I go to my site tab, I can actually access my SharePoint site, which is a modern team site related on that Office 365 group, and I'm landing on the welcome page of the site. Then there we go, we have a modern team site in a matter of 10 seconds or 20 seconds. So it's a relatively fast thing. So the modern site provisioning is super fast comparing to the classic site provisioning, do numerous optimizations which we have actually applied on the SharePoint site. Now, I'm not going to actually show in practice how to apply, for example, the custom branding, but that's absolutely available as well. So you're able to, for example, upload the needed SP color file and the PN background color file, and assign the theme for the group itself. I've already done that because this execution does take quite a long time. I'm looking into optimizing that one as well. And where did my mouse go? Hello, there's my mouse. So I have here in a slightly different tenant, I have a group which is having a custom theme. You can actually see that the colors are aligned with the background color. And now if I move across the site, that custom theme, which is in quotes my branding, elements is consistent regardless where I actually go within the site. So if I go site contents or if I go anywhere within the site, we can see the custom branding being consistent. And site information. Oh, that's that one. Come on. I want to go to site setting. There we go. And like we can see, even site settings is having the theming applied, so it's pretty consistent from a branding perspective, even though the theming is relatively limited from a branding configuration perspective, but it's consistent across the site, which is a good thing. One thing to notice here is that this is a modern theme site, and I mentioned already that the NoScript tag is enabled by default for the modern theme sites, and you're unable to disable that, which means that a lot of the, let's say, classic SharePoint options in the site settings or in the customization perspective are no longer available, and that's because the NoScript essentially means that all of the scenarios where people are able to embed scripts on the site without control are actually disabled, and that's why a lot of the functionalities are actually disabled from this site. And there might be some surprises from a behavior perspective. As an example, just a random example, but you cannot actually add new new look and feel item. You can apply a custom theme, but you cannot actually add a new item to the look and feel gallery, which is slightly confusing, but it's the current behavior of the functionality anyway. Let me go back on the presentation and show then I'm going through those individual limitations and where we are from that perspective. So I'll switch back on the presentation. And if there's any random questions, just feel free to jump in and ask them as well. Good. Judith is asking already, will there be functionality added to the more custom branding theming? Answer is yes, and I'll come back on that one in the following slide as well. So let's actually go through what's currently supported from a customization perspective in the modern theme sites, or we have to actually concentrate in the vice versa thinking what's not supported. So you can apply a custom theme. The future branding capabilities are not yet announced, or we actually mentioned that they're coming at some point sooner or later, and you will have much more additional capabilities. You can control. We're planning to have you control on the menus, on the footer, on the header, and the individual layouts and all of that. But that's still in the roadmap. So right now that capability is not available, and we do not have a specific timeline when it will be available, and even what are the exact capabilities, what are there. Now, so that means essentially that right now there's no support for custom master pages. You cannot switch a custom master page on their sites. You cannot also switch to a custom page layout. So the page layout right now is super simplistic. It's a one essentially canvas, which if you compare to the classic site, it's a one web part zone or a one text layout zone, and we do understand that it's highly limited. The future branding capabilities and whatever is done on that side plus the canvas work will enable additional layouts then in later. There's no support for front page modification for now, so you cannot actually automatically using API modify the pages. You cannot add web parts or modify the web parts using API. That's in the roadmap. We are aware of the ask, but currently it's not available. There's no support for app-only creation, and this is a really kind of a nasty limitation. If you think about automation in the back, for example, from Microsoft Azure as a web job or whatever, you need to fall back on the user token-based operations. There's no support for user custom action JavaScript, and this really relates on the NoScript tag being enabled. So because that would then essentially open up even security problems, theoretical security problems. Now, we do support SPFX client-side web parts on these pages. SharePoint Framework is still in the developer preview. Relatively soon it's going to go to release candidate and then GA. And at that point you can absolutely add client-side web parts using the SharePoint Framework, implemented using the SharePoint Framework on these pages. The code parts, which are essentially, you can oversimplify the scenario that they are almost like the user custom actions. They are in the roadmap. But one of the challenges with user custom actions right now, currently in SharePoint Online, is that they do not have tenant level control. So you're unable to actually, or how would I put it, as long as you are a site collection administrator or you have the sufficient permissions, you're able to add user custom actions on the sites. And that's not a centralized control. So with a SharePoint framework-based code parts, we will enable these kind of scenarios, but it means that they are centrally controlled in a tenant level. And that's in a roadmap. We do not have exact date and exact timeline for that one, unfortunately. There's no support for layout changes currently. I mentioned that one already in the page layout, and the subsites are currently still using classic template. A known limitation, absolutely, and we're working on getting that one addressed as well. Now, what you can do, and it kind of relates on the Russell's question, what about converting the existing sites? You can go and enable the modern experiences on the existing site, enable the pages on the existing sites and also subsites, and then update the welcome page of a subsite to point to a modern page. Then the experience would be pretty much consistent. Now, that's not optimal, and we're absolutely working on a better story on that one. And this sounds bad because we're going to concentrate more on what's not supported, but I think it's super important that we are aware of the current situation. And it really comes down on the first slide what I showed. You need to evaluate what's available currently in the modern team sites and what's available, what are your functional and business requirements. Whenever that, let's say, threshold on the modern team sites goes above your functional and business requirements, then you can start using them. So we would seriously recommend to have this detailed analysis on your existing requirements and understand what are those key scenarios which you need to have. And until those are there, keep on using Classic. The Classic is not going to go away, like Bert mentioned. You can keep on using Classic with whatever customizations what you have. And then at some point, yes, okay, let's flip on the modern UIs whenever the needed APIs and customization endpoints are available. But these are essentially the list of stuff which is coming, or let's say are disabled due to no script settings. So you cannot save signed as a template, save document library as a template. There's no solution gallery, so no sandbox solutions, no theme gallery. But I need to mention specifically on that one, the theming gallery is not there, but you can actually apply a custom theme. That's a different scenario. There's no help setting, HTML field security, sandbox solution obviously not there because the gallery is no longer there, SharePoint Designer not enabled, and all of the files which are potentially including scripts, you cannot upload them on the site, like ASPX files or master pages, and that's really because of the no script setting being enabled. And that then also enables some limitations on the web part side. So a lot of the web parts which have these certain extensibility points are not actually available, like the BCS web parts or community web parts, and a few other web parts, like the script editor web part, which is kind of understandable. Now, we will have, like mentioned, SharePoint Framework client-side web parts will be absolutely supported in the modern team sites immediately when they go to GA. Now they are in the developer preview. They are, you can use them in the first release tenants, but they are in the developer preview. So we do not recommend to be using them in the production for the time being. Now, let's actually move on the modern lists and libraries, and then we'll come back on hey, what about the existing SharePoint sites? Can I somehow magically migrate them over? What's the scenarios on that one? But I'll let Bert taking over at this point. You can actually, and there we go. You took control of the presentation.
Taking over the presentation. Yeah.
Excellent.
Let me know when you see the screen.
Yep. All good. All good.
All good. All right. So what's the story around modern lists and libraries? When we look at branding, we do support branding for those modern lists and libraries. So, for example, if you have a custom theme with a background image or some custom colors, they all nicely blend into the modern experience for lists and libraries. So I think that's good. However, that's also it at the moment. If we further improve branding, as Vesa mentioned, these features will also kind of get into modern list and library experiences. But that's on the roadmap. What we do not have is support for custom master pages, custom page layouts, or kind of options to like add an additional web part in this list experience, for example. So these things are not there at the moment. Now, a common thing around modern lists and libraries, if you look at an accessibility perspective, actually there are two common things. One is user custom actions you want to have extended. So in the classic mode, you would have a custom ribbon button, or even a custom ribbon at all, a custom ribbon group, additional elements in the right-click menu, for the settings menu of a document. That's one group of changes. Another group of changes we typically do is related to JS-Link, having the field render differently, having the view render differently using JS-Link. Now, the latter category, JS-Link, is not possible at the moment. It's on the roadmap to deliver an alternative solution which allows you to have your custom rendering, and that aligns with the further rollout of SPFX. But today that's not an option, so all those JS links will not work. Now, the good thing is that if you look at the custom action support, we do have a limited support for custom actions. And actually, the most important ones are there in my view. So what do we support and what do we not support? So we do support custom actions targeting the edit control block. So if you select the document and show the pop-up menu, that's what's in there is governed by the edit control block location, and you can have your custom elements, your custom menu items in there. Second area that we support is everything targeting Command UI ribbon. So if you in the past would have had a custom ribbon group with custom buttons, they should appear in the modern list and libraries as well, but I'm explicitly talking about should because there are some limitations. So we have some little quirks that you need to be aware of and that we are documenting as part of the MSDN articles that we talked about in the beginning so that it becomes clear for everyone. But they can work if they can account the proper settings. Now, I know that a lot of people used user custom actions to inject JavaScript or to embed JavaScript, to be more correct, or to embed CSS. Unfortunately, that approach is also not possible today. So you cannot have your custom JavaScript running in a modern list experience. There is no way to trigger that. So if you look at ribbon support, so which is under the command UI.ribbon as location, so you can add additional ribbons. Additional ribbon tabs show up as drop-down menus, and I think the demo will make it more clear. Keep in mind that in the legacy approach, in the classic approach, you can have different groups. So you can have a custom ribbon with different groups, and then kind of put your buttons in those different groups. The concept of a group is not there anymore. So all the buttons will just be shown as one list, actually. All right, what are some of the gotchas? And this is, I would say, not an exhaustive list. So there will be some more details to this list when we are while we finish the research and writing an article. We'll kind of further complete this list. But these are some important things to know. One common complaint we saw is around sequencing. People saw that their custom actions appeared because they were, for example, command UI ribbon type of actions, but the order was completely wrong. And that's unfortunately currently a known issue. So what actually happens is that the page calls the REST endpoint to ask for the custom actions for the list, and the REST endpoint returns the custom actions in a particular order. And that order is not respecting the sequence attribute that you can specify in your custom action XML. Hence, it's also not correctly ordered. We are working, there's plans to improve this behavior. Another thing we noticed is that image map support is not there. So if you used to have like one big image with several images inside, so you can just point to a particular coordinates to pick the right image to show, that approach doesn't work anymore. So you have to really specify your exact image. Maybe the good thing is that you only have to worry about the 16 by 16 image, so 32 by 32 images are not relevant in this concept. And two other gotchas that we saw people hitting is the registration ID. So in regular custom actions, you can actually point to a list ID as registration ID. So you can really scope it to a particular list. If you do that, it will not show up. You really have to point it to a regular list template type, like 101 for document library. And the final note here is that the URL action cannot contain JavaScript, which kind of aligns with the initial comments around user custom actions used to embed JavaScript. So there is no way to embed JavaScript on those modern experiences today. Things will improve in the future, but today that simply doesn't work. So to try it, it will not work.
Except, Bert, I have to say there's an awesome input from Mahesh that it seems to actually work in the datasheet mode. But that's no doubt a bug.
That's interesting. I didn't try that one, but yeah, I take a note for the documentation, because it's something maybe to investigate. Thanks for that. Now, I plan to give a little demo, but due to time constraints, I'm going to skip the demo. But essentially, what the demo will do is show you the PnP provisioning XML to create those custom actions that show up in a modern experience, and then I would just show how it looks, what's the result. Now, luckily, we have a screenshot actually showing what comes out. So the actual provisioning XML will be in the MSMN articles, so you will have a reference to start from. So you can copy it and then adjust it to your needs. This shows what is possible. So at the left side, you see those CA2 title, CA1 title, which is custom actions in the edit control block location showing up. If I ask the properties for a document, at the right side you see the toolbar, which is extended with a custom tab. So a custom tab transforms into a drop-down menu, and then you will see the different buttons which are in the custom tab. Originally, that custom tab had two groups, and then button 1, button 2 was in group 1, and then you had button 3 in group 3. But the group concept is not visible, so you don't see like a divider between button 3 and then button 1 and 2. So they will just list it sequentially, like in the way how they are returned by the REST call that the UI is doing to SharePoint. If you add a button in one of the existing groups, so in this case we added the download all button into the existing, I think the group is called downloads, that will just show up as well as a custom button. But again, the ordering might be not like you want it to be, so that's something that you have to accept for now. There are some more little quirks, like if you have custom button 3 with an image, custom button 1 without image, and custom button 2 with an image, for example, then the alignment goes wrong. So there are some little things that are not perfect, and we're documenting those, and we're pushing also for improvements. But at least I think the positive message here is that you can have your custom actions showing up in the modern experiences, and you can kind of hopefully it is sufficient for most of your customizations, and with the changes coming up, more and more customizations will get unblocked and will enable you to do more. I think that's it, Tressa, so I'm going to have to drop.
Yeah, I was talking again too much on my initial section. I always do that. Yeah, Bert has some family things which he needs to attend, but luckily we were able to actually go through the current situation on the lists and libraries. And like mentioned, we're really looking into getting the MSDN articles out next week. So they will then explicitly show how this can be done for the modern lists and libraries as well. Now, a few things. Russell already asked about this one, converting existing sites. So technically, if we think about just the end user experience, and thank you, Bert, for the way joining. So I know that you need to leave as well. But so if you think about the end user experience only from a SharePoint perspective, so excluding all of the other stuff related on the groups, you can actually get pretty close from within the SharePoint just by enabling the modern lists and libraries capability within the existing site. Then we pretty recently actually start shipping the modern pages experience in the classic sites as well. So what you would be looking into is essentially creating a modern page using the create page functionality if you don't disable that explicitly, and then updating the welcome page of the site pointing to that modern page. And after that, the site is pretty much, from an end user perspective, it is a modern site. So because the welcome page is a modern page, whenever you create a new page, it's a modern page. If you go to libraries and lists or site actions or site contents, it is a modern experience as well. So the site itself is slightly different. Let's say the modern team sites, they're actually group #0 sites. They're not SDS #1 sites like the classic team sites or whatever template you've been actually using. So that would be visible still in the site settings, or not in the site settings, underlying site configuration details, and there might be a few other, let's say, quirks here and there, but pretty much from an end user perspective, functionality would be the same. Now, and that's the situation right now. We are looking to also having a capability for associating or creating a group to an existing team site. And in that scenario, it would most likely mean that there will be a capability of creating a group and associating a group to an existing SDS #0 site, a team site, which would then be connected. So it doesn't matter if you're accessing the group and going to the sites from a group side, or if you go to the site, it would actually have that same one-to-one connectivity between group and a site and a group, so on. We do not have a timeline for that one, and that's slightly more complex scenario to solve than it might first seem, because there's multiple connection points. The groups are actually controlled on the Exchange side, and we need to make sure that all of the needed things in the Azure AD and an Exchange and a SharePoint side are actually done. And even in that case, whenever that capability will be there, because that most likely will be there, I would say, we most likely will not by default flip the welcome page of the classic site, because let's face it, we cannot do that. You have your existing classic collaboration sites, you have existing web parts on your existing pages, you have existing content on the existing pages. We cannot just automatically flip the welcome page experience on these sites using whatever the logic we would come up with from Microsoft side. So it has to be something what people are explicitly enabling or controlling by themselves within their tenant. So they can actually then decide how do they want to do the transition and what kind of web parts will be in the modern welcome page comparing to the classic welcome page in the classic site as well. And that's really kind of the story around converting to existing sites. And hopefully, Russell, you're fine with that answer. Now, and feel free to ask more if needed. And I know that there's probably for majority of the people in the call are like, damn, so limited. that we would like to have much more additional scenarios within the modern sites. And trust me, we are aware of the asks. We do understand that there are significant customizations in the classic SharePoint sites. At the same time, we want to make sure that in the future, we would minimize the possibilities for people breaking up their SharePoint online like they used to be able to do in the past. So we want to have more control, and the control will be within the tenant administrative level. If the tenant administrator wants to accept certain customizations, yes, you can still do that, but it has to have the right control, and you have to have the right, let's say, governance and mechanisms to control this. We are looking into adding a lot of these additional capabilities to the modern team sites, and that will happen gradually. And really, like mentioned when we started, follow up on what's happening. This is just the start. We are now kind of a V1.0, or somebody might say version 0.2. Whenever we get to the following versions and we enable additional capabilities, then again, have a look on the modern sites. Is it good enough for you? If it's good enough, you can actually start using that. If it's not good enough, keep on using the existing classic experience. You can control all of these settings, typically in a tenant level. There are certain exceptions on that one, like the modern pages, which you need to control in the site level. But you're able to disable, for example, all of the modern experiences if you don't want to use them. So that's something to be aware. And obviously, please use the user voice. So if there's capabilities which are missing, please use the user voice to give us input. We are actually seriously looking into all of the entries in a user voice. And the key scenario, and why we're asking people to do that, is that we want to input using Twitter and Facebook and social media and all of these things and all of that. But if it comes to say, hey, this is this random guy, Frank Marasco, sending a request, even though Frank is an internal guy, sending a random request from Chicago saying, hey, that and that is super important for me. Okay, cool. But is it just Frank who's asking that? Or is it just, is it actually half of our audience who's asking that? How many people truly need to have that capability? So having that number in the user voice, which is saying, there is 250 whatever votes on this one, or 200 votes on this one, or 60 votes on this request, will help the prioritization internally in Microsoft. Because obviously, the capabilities which are requested more will be prioritized more within our queue. Why do we have queue? Well, because we do not have infinite resources, even though we're Microsoft. Like anybody in the ISV or system integrator side, you do understand that there is a certain limitation of the resources what you have, and then we need to queue up the functionalities. And we're working as fast as we can. So there are a lot of people who are really dedicated on making this work, and we want to be super successful on this one. We are kind of in a transition stage right now, so I would ask that be patient. We absolutely get there, but also be polite, because those people who are working on this one, they are putting their own, they are seriously working long hours trying to make this thing happen for you as well. Good. I'm just quickly looking into why are the mailboxes in by groups pointing to team tenant name on Microsoft.com and not my own email. Where is that mail stored? So if you create a group, it will have its own inbox. So and then all of the owners and members of that group will be having access on that group mailbox as well, and they're able to read that. Read those emails as well. Excuse me. Cool. And then switching completely to another topic, I would actually, let's stay here for a second. Any other questions on the modern experiences for the time being? What is the key question what you came to get an answer? And even though for the many of the questions we are unable to say explicitly anything, I'm more than happy to answer on any questions. So feel free to use Iron Window if you have anything specific on your mind. And if we don't, we can absolutely move forward. There is a Q&A section still coming up on later. The Second topic of the day. That was the modern experience, and this is just one slide, but I want to remind people on the ask and a process. So in the PnP side, in the PnP side score, in the site provisioning side, and we are looking into starting to implement a new schema for the new schema version. And what the new schema version means is that we're starting to add new capabilities on the engine itself. So every now and then we're getting additional requests on, hey, I need to have, for example, audience support in the on-premises for my navigation nodes in publishing sites, or I need to have this and that support within the engine. Absolutely, but we need to get them collected, those requests. And the easiest way to get them actually notified is to do an issue in the PnP provisioning schema repository in the GitHub underneath the SharePoint organization. So github.com/SharePoint/PnP provisioning schema is the right repository. Why didn't I add a link, full link on that repo in here? I'm going to actually paste that one in the IAM window. So provisioning schema, and that's the issue list. So let me actually put that one. And that would be the repository. We have a lot of stuff already there tagged for the next version of the schema, and which we want to take into account in the planning of the new capabilities. And this, it's great to see that these are quite many of these are already pretty advanced scenarios. So you need to have additional attributes for lists or additional settings for the site, which currently are not available. And we absolutely want to support those things in the future in the PnP provisioning engine. Which kind of reminded me, just to mention, the PnP provisioning engine does support modern team sites as well. In certain level. And what it means is that the PnP provisioning engine does detect if the NoScript tag is enabled or if it's a modern team site, and then we do not export or apply certain settings, which we cannot actually apply. You can still create content types, you can still create site columns, you can still create lists and libraries and all of that within the template itself. And obviously in the future, whenever we get those additional APIs to the modern team sites, for example, for applying a custom web part on the modern team site front page, we'll implement that support in the PnP provisioning engine as well. And then at some point, there will be a native provisioning engine in the SharePoint Online as well, but we're pretty far for the time being for that one. So the PnP provisioning engine does have a long future ahead of it still. Cool. Excuse me. Good. And then moving on the questions and comments. Pretty good timing, actually. We have 13 minutes. There is a Dean is asking, Dean is asking, when do we expect the docs to get published in MSDN? The objective is to get them published in the PnP MSDN and starting from next week. So we are trying to get the first versions of the articles to internal review this week. And hopefully that shouldn't take too long, and most likely it doesn't, because engineering and PJ people are writing these docs, so we should actually get the material out already next week. Question from Mahesh, will there be an ability to provision SPFX web parts using PnP provisioning engine immediately when we have an API? So answer is yes. Right now we do not have an API to do that. And well, theoretically yes, in practice slightly depends, but immediately when there's an API, a proper fully supported API will absolutely get that one supported as well. Right now the SPFX web parts are not in GA, so we're not really even looking into that one, because we know even though there would be an API which doesn't exist for the time being, the SPFX web parts, it's not in production usage. Before the GA, we will not implement that support anyway. But pretty fast, immediately when the APIs are available, you can expect that to be supported. Any other questions? We do have Irvin and Paolo still on the line as well from the PnP core team side. If there's any questions on the PowerShell or the engine side, even though we lost Bert. and a few others as well. Has there been any movement in the combining the different PowerShell window applications? So we're looking into. So the question is around SharePoint Online Management PowerShell plus the PnP PowerShell. Are we looking into combining them? And the answer is yes. There has been internal movement in the engineering. So the centralized ownership of the SPO management PowerShell has been moved to closer to PnP. Let's put it this way. And that's step number one. Step number two is to start looking into open sourcing SharePoint Online Management PowerShell. And immediately when we do that, then we can actually start combining the PnP PowerShell and the SharePoint Online PowerShell. And we should have more insights on that one starting from spring. So we'll need to still wait for a few months, but we're looking into that. Slightly related on this one, we are looking into releasing a new version of SharePoint Online PowerShells also in monthly basis. So it's kind of aligning to the rhythm of PnP as well, even though right now it doesn't actually has a connectivity to PnP, but then at some point it might. So we're absolutely looking into that. Good. For possible bug fixes in core code, do you want a ticket created to link pull request to, or pull request with the description of a issue is enough? Right now, pull request with a description of the issue is enough. So we don't explicitly require an issue to be created for the PRs, as long as we have a clear scenario what are we actually fixing in the pull request description as well. Like Irvin is answering on the following line. Yes. It's a matter of logistics. It would actually make sense that we have a proper description for all of the things, so we're able to then actually pinpoint which are the issues which have been delivered on a monthly basis. Right now, the monthly release notes is a manual work done by very frustrated person once a month, collecting all of the changes across all of the repositories, who's pretty close talking within this call as well. Thank you, Judith. Yes. Good. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas, feedback? And we do not obviously have to hang on online if there isn't any, which is fine as well. Because we don't seem to have any super urgent things, we can close up the call slightly earlier this time. Absolutely fine. Hopefully the agenda was useful and informative as well. So we went through the current status. And like mentioned, we do know that it's frustrating that we're lacking some of the key scenarios, but it's better to know what's actually missing rather than being uncertain on the current situation. And that's really what we want to do. So that's the reason why the MSDN articles are coming out as well. But have a great holidays as well. Hopefully all of you have time to take a small break during the holiday season, and let's get back on business. Oh, that's a good point. We do not have the 28th of December SIG call. I will probably pop online and put a slide there, because it's a holiday season, we won't actually have this call. So the next special interest group call won't be happening. That would be on 28th of December, and the following one will be on 11th of January. But I think that's it. So thank you very much for joining and for your input. Super helpful. And let's keep on having this communication channel active. Thank you.